birthday, Grandpa! Happy birthday, Grandpa!
Happy birthday, Dad.
Happy birthday, Nels. Many more to come.
As I crunch and show, as the sweet breeze blows, as all kindness goes, hope still lingers on. I drink myself a newfound pity, sitting alone in New York City, and I don't know why.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Grandpa. Happy birthday to you.
Are we listening? Hymns of offering.
Happy birthday, Grandpa.
Have we eyes to see? Love is gathering. All the words that I've been reading have now started the act of bleeding into one. So I walk upon high and I step to the edge to see my world below, and allow myself while the tears roll down, 'cause it's the world I know. Oh, it's the world I know.
This old fogey was born in 1939, March 12th, in Ashland, Pennsylvania. And coincidentally, the year before me, my sister was born the same day. Boy, did my parents have those numbers figured out. My sister Roseanne, born the same day, of course me. Then my sister Barbie, she was like 2 years after me. Then Kay was 5.5 years, and Irene, she was 11 years. So that's the 4 girls, 1 boy in our family. But I was the king. My older sister again, me and her, not only were we young, I was 3, she was 4, but we figured out how to start a car. And we got in my dad's car when he was not there, and she knew how to put the ignition on. I knew how to work the pedals. Unfortunately, we drove through a fence. But we didn't get in any trouble because we didn't harm anybody. My earliest recollection of a house was when I was 3 years old, and we lived in Woodstown, New Jersey. My dad was in construction, and we had to follow the jobs wherever the jobs were. There we go. My dad, he lost his mother at a very early age, and he was farmed out to aunts, uncles, whatever. So he came up a little rough around the edges. He had no form. I think he went to 8th grade at the most. And of course, everybody back then, Depression days, he had to work for a living. So he had a very tough upbringing. On my mother's side, she was actually born in Brockton, Massachusetts. My dad was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My mother was born in Brockton, Massachusetts. I guess they were in the mill. They worked in the mills. They were all working class families, and they migrated to Manchester, New Hampshire, and that's where my mother grew up. And then the mills went bad, and then there was always work in the anthracite coal region. So they came down and they worked into the mines, and that's my family actually were like miners back then. My father's mother died, and his father actually left the family. He ran off to work, He was a very intelligent electrical guy, and he was involved with electrification of the rural areas. He was involved with the electrification of 30th Street Station. He was involved with Boulder Dam in Colorado, and he ended up being like the superintendent on 22 different powerhouses throughout the country. Very intelligent guy. However, the issue was he left his family. So my father had a very tough time, and his siblings also had a very difficult time with that. In the environment that we were in those days, my parents did not own a home. They rented wherever they went. Because of the work situation, you had to go from job to job to job. It didn't pay to have a home in a town. You had to rent and move to the next town where the next job was. I had friendships, of course, but never lasting because I left. Wherever they were, I left. So it made me a more, what's the word for it? Resilient, because I had to do it over and over again. And you become resilient, and you do what you got to do. I was in second grade when things started to be a little different in the house because my mother had seizures, and we were all, what the heck's going on? And it ended up being that she had a brain tumor. So we were quite young, all of us were. I was in second grade. I guess I was 7 years old, 8 years old. And we were dealt this blow to our family. And that's how it started. She had a benign brain tumor, and there was a wonderful surgeon at Jefferson Hospital, Dr. Whiteley, who performed the surgery, which was at that time almost experimental surgery because no one knew anything about this stuff back then. And he removed the brain tumor, and it was benign, as I said, but then to make sure there was no other things going on, they injected her with a dye in her head to make sure everything was okay, and unfortunately her blood vessel burst, and because of that she was paralyzed for life. I think losing your mom is probably the toughest thing that could ever occur. And we should never have been surprised, because my mother being an invalid, it went on for years. And here she lived to be 71 years old. But in my mind, she could have been 91 years old, and I would have been just as crushed. Of course, I'm going back to, I guess, where I was more active. I was in the, probably starting with the 6th or 7th grade. Our daily activity would be, you ride your bike to the ball field, you play ball, baseball, or you go up the street and you shoot hoops at the corner. We had always had a hoops thing there. And then in the wintertime, you ice skate, and there was no TV. You listened to the radio back in those days. And everybody was in the same boat, so everybody thought it was great. Our neighbor had a little TV, and we used to sneak over there and watch the Philadelphia Athletics and the Philadelphia Phillies on the baseball games. And the TV was only like a 6 or 9 inch screen, and it was black and white too, but it was TV. This is the big thing. So my recollection of World War II, as we lived in Collingdale, Pennsylvania, we had blackouts, air raids. You had to pull the curtains down. But being a child again, I was not involved with the real stuff that was going on. However, I can remember when the war ended, and they were having parades going up and down the street. I actually went up on McDade Boulevard and marched with the troops. I started out in Blessed Virgin Mary Grade School in Darby, Pennsylvania. Then we moved. Oh, this is going to be tough. I stayed there for 1st and 2nd grade. Then my mother got sick. And then I actually was farmed out to my uncle, because the family was dispersed because my mother was so sick. All the kids were farmed out to aunts and uncles as my dad was trying to get things together. So I went to St. Magdalene's School in Lost Creek. I went to my uncle's farm in Sellersville, and then I ended up at, I forget the name, I think it's St. Mary's in Culpmount in my 3rd grade. That's my 3 schools in 3rd grade. And every time I went to a new school, I had to face the toughest kid in the class, in the schoolyard. And that was resilience. Then after that, we moved to Ashland, Pennsylvania, and there was my longest stay in grammar school. It was from 4th grade to freshman in high school at St. Joseph's of Ashland. And then, of course, I ended up at Camden Catholic. We moved down to New Jersey, Camden Catholic High School. That's where I graduated. I always loved history. That was probably my favorite, and geography. And I love math, but math didn't love me. But I did my best. I had my first job was delivering newspapers at 9 or 10 years old. I worked in a bowling alley setting pins because they didn't have mechanical. We had manual pins being set. Anything to grab some money to bring home to help out the deal. My first car was a 1952 Ford convertible. Now if you go back, it was Camden Catholic. It was 1956 when I bought this 52 automobile. So it was only 4 years old. Coming from a working class family, my father being in the electrical field, my grandfather, my uncles, everybody in the electrical field, I had an escape route to go into the electrical union and make decent money immediately after high school. But in my heart and soul, I guess I wanted to be an engineer. I went to Keystone College, and that's another story in itself. That's in northeastern Pennsylvania, and the best move of my life, I guess.
The way I met Grandpop is we were in junior college together. My girlfriend thought she would like to meet a young gentleman that was in a chemistry class. She asked me to find out who he was and to see if I could arrange for them to meet and maybe date.
I was in class, and actually her girlfriend wanted to meet me. So she asked Dory to find me and maybe have me introduced to her girlfriend.
I was told by a person in his chemistry class a wrong name. They told me that his name was Chauncey Dumont, believe that or not. And I thought, well, I'm going to go meet Chauncey and see if he would mind asking my friend out for a date.
But thank goodness Dory saw me and said, forget you, girlfriend. And that was the end of that.
Well, I proceed to make sure I get a particular way to meet up with him so it didn't look so obvious. Introduced myself, and he corrected his name is not Chauncey Dumont, it's Nelson Cooney. And he proceeded to ask me out, and I said, sure.
We have been inseparable since that time.
I knew he was the one because we immediately had a rapport. We differed in a lot of respects night and day, but somehow we came together in the middle. I'm not sure how that is, but it's been him and I ever since. He's my best friend.
She was the one, for sure. When we first got married, I had to go to Fort Gordon, Georgia. So we went down there, and it was only like we were there 5 months. And I had this job waiting for me, so it was no big deal about finance. So when we get back, starting out, one bedroom apartment, Mikey came, It was idyllic. It was the greatest thing. And all of us around were the same. We're all young people, young kids. It was better and better and better. We picked names, and first one was Mike. And then, gee, let's have a Tim. She was pretty good because she always went with me because I always wanted like an Irish flair with the names. And you know, she went with that. She said it was good. And then Carolyn, Carrie, and Chris. So we had our Irish names. As young Mike and young Tim, they were into everything. And we lived in Pensauken, which we had a very neat deal there, very nice house. And somehow, I don't know who got the baby powder first, but up and down the steps with the baby powder. Climbing fences and dogs next door and the neighborhood, the crazy neighborhood. It was a fun place to grow up for everybody. You have to understand, we grew up as adults as you grew up as children. Because, you know, it was all new to us. There was no books to guide you. So we had fun. Raising the kids. Responsibility, responsibility, responsibility. Again, as I said previously, there is no book to guide you. You just, from the seat of your pants, you try and do the best you can and set by example, I guess, hopefully set by example. And good mothers make good kids. If it's not Lake Manola, I don't know where you're at. We had tons of fun, summer after summer. Oh, winter too. We went up there and Grandma, the best. Cook for everybody, whatever you want. It was great. Good fun. Good fun. I don't care what they've achieved in life. It's the character that they have. That's what I really appreciate. They're all good. They're all good people. That's important. I remember I was at work. I was working for John F. McCarthy Company. I was in their office. And when the word came over on TV that this occurred, everybody left. I went home. Your mother was in tears. We were shaken. This is, like you said, Camelot had died. So it was tough. When that day happened, we went down to my cousin's, Charles Clogger's house in Stanton, Delaware. Why we were there for that, it wasn't for the Beatles, but we went down to visit them, and they said, let's turn on the Ed Sullivan Show, and the Beatles came on. And it took America, and it took us too. They were great. It was entertaining. We got our entire family up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch this whole thing evolve. It was the most wonderful thing for Americans to see this occur, that landing a person on the moon, you know, was unbelievable. And after 10 years of trying to get there, we finally got there. It was a sight to behold. I had this job as a tower crane standby electrician. If the job worked 5 days, I worked 6. Job worked 6, I worked 7. We made more money in those couple of years than you could dream of as a young couple. But then it was Christmas Eve, and they always have little parties on job sites. And we're all in the trailer having a little party, and I'm the only person on site who has the qualifications to climb the tower crane, because now the navigation light goes out. So they say to me, you got to go repair the light. And you're the only person on the island who can do it. So I said, okay, I'll leave the party. I climbed 325 feet into the air to the top of the crane. Well, actually to the cab of the crane, through a ladder going up the middle. Then the last part of it was I had to go on the outside of the crane and climb out on the outside up to the top, to the navigation light. I get up there The wind is blowing, in my mind, 50 miles an hour. Temperature is probably 15, 20 degrees. It's so cold, miserable. I get up there, I get to the light, it has a cover on it. I try and turn the cover of the light off. I can't do it. It is stuck. I said to myself, why in God's name am I here doing this? I climbed down, went back in the trailer, and told him, take this job and shove it. After seeing the industry, I wanted to be my own boss. Now, there was things that helped me do this. My father, who was a very, very intelligent and a great electrical guy, my mother was starting to fail, and he had a job with another company, and it got to the point where he was afraid that he had to be home. So I said to my dad, look, let's get together. You stay home, take care of Mom, and you just do the estimating, and I'll take care of the business with your mother, with Dory. And we formed a company with under those premises that he would do his thing and we would take care of the stuff. And that's how it started, and here we are today. As time went on, our children came in with us, and they developed what we had started. They mushroomed it, and it became what it is today. So it's a family thing. It's not just me and Mom. It became a family affair, and a good affair. Having grandkids, oh my gosh, I'm too young to be a grandfather, but I was a grandfather. They're into everything, and you see them doing whatever they do, and then they even go further than what you can imagine they could accomplish. We're seeing our kids in college now, going to great universities, doing great things, and hopefully getting great jobs. It's wonderful to see them grow up, and that's great for grandparents. We feel that one of our biggest accomplishments, hopefully will continue, is to be able to participate in the paying of the college education for our grandkids. We have 12, and we've been doing it now for, how many? 5? No, 4 of them. And hopefully there's enough left that we can contribute to the end, so all of them will get at least half of their education paid for by us. That's, we feel, is our accomplishment. I was being treated for numerous skin cancers for 5 years before this. And you know, it's no big deal. They just go in, you cut, scrape them, you're done. But then I got this one thing that didn't go away, and finally they took a look at it further, and then they said, oh boy, you have something a lot more serious. And it was traumatic. Because of what it was, I thought it was life-threatening, maybe life-ending. So it was tough. But I'm blessed. I'm blessed with the life I have. What is most important to me in my life is family, family, family. That's all it is. If everyone is happy in my family, I'm happy. If someone is sad, I'm sad. So it's all about family. Of course, we have lived the American dream. We have done things beyond our expectations. We never thought that we would be able to accomplish, not that we are so great about what we do, but we have accomplished more than we ever thought we would. And our family has achieved so many things together, all of us as a family. It's been the greatest ride that I could ever imagine.
Well, I woke up to the sound to silence the cars. We're cutting like knives in a fist fight. And I found you with a bottle of wine, your head in the curtains, and heart like the 4th of July. You swore and said we are not shining stars. This I know, I never said we are. Though I've never been through hell like that, I've closed enough windows to know you can never look back. If you're lost and alone, or you're sinking like a stone, carry on. May your past be the sound of your feet upon the ground. Carry on. Carry on, carry on.